Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call our October 4th Town Council meeting to order. Would we stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Labriola?
Here.
Mr. Prickett?
Here.
Mr. Moffitt?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
We have two sets of minutes. Minutes from September 6th meeting. Both from September 6th, excuse me, 12:30 and 2 o'clock, under tab 1 and 2. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the 12:30 meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then the second is the 2 o'clock meeting, the town council meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor's update. I think we could all say, we should all be saying a prayer for all of the communities and victims of that devastating storm last week. It really shows so much, the power of nature and the vulnerability of things that have been built and created, and how within a matter of 24, 36, 48 hours, how it can just so drastically changed. So our prayers and thoughts go to them. I've asked Stephanie, and Tony's here, if they could give an update in terms of what the town did. And before, I'm not sure who's going to step up
Yeah.
first, but I really, on behalf of the entire community, Steph and your team, and Tony and your team, thank God for you guys. You guys did a marvelous, marvelous job in terms of preparing the community, and so we think,
Why don't we go,
thank you.
if you guys want to go up, Jim, Brian, Bruce, and Tony, you guys can kind of go up and each give your, won't be a long report, but
Good.
give your quick update.
I got here first, so I get to
Yeah.
go first.
You can
That's
you can go
right.
first, Jim.
So I just have a quick update on, the conditions that we experienced during the storm, from our tide station and our weather station. Thought it'd be interesting to share that with everyone. So, in terms of tides, obviously we were, potentially threatened with a 4 to 7 foot storm surge. If we'd have taken a direct hit or just south of us, we would have seen, significant storm surge. Obviously we lucked out on that. So the day before the storm, as it was building, so that's the 29th, we were supposed to have a 6.7 foot high tide at 12:09 p.m. It crested at 8 feet, so that's 1.3 feet above normal. So obviously it was already starting to build, but fortunately by the high tide on the 30th, when the storm actually came through, our winds had shifted, and so it was an offshore wind. So the tide on the 30th was supposed to be a 6.7. It actually ended up being a 7.3, so 0.7 feet above the expected tide. So obviously with the timing of the storm, and again, if it had been on us or slightly south of us, we could have seen tides over 10 feet, potentially 11 feet, which, we know from having the tide station up for almost 2 years now, that when we get a tide that's above about 8.5 feet, we've got pretty significant flooding on the parkway within the gate. But when we get close to 9, the exterior parkway floods pretty significantly. So luckily we stayed below that and didn't really have any flooding issues. Rainfall, we got 4.24 inches, a good amount, but not as much as it could have been. And then in terms of wind speeds, we saw our highest gust on the 30th between 10 and 11 a.m. And our peak wind speed was 11 a.m. On the 30th at 50 miles an hour. So we did see, a few gusts that were tropical storm force, but again, we lucked out based on just, you know, the track of the storm.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Jim.
So what I'll probably say might get into what these two guys are going to get into as well, but just real quick, right prior to the storm, we had conference calls with the county to kind of hear what some other jurisdictions were doing and what the county's lead was on the storm, which is what we tend to follow more often than not. But so those conference calls kind of led to some of our internal discussion to figure out what we're going to do between the stakeholders on the island. So there was a lot of communication in preparation for the storm coming. And part of my efforts were to secure this building, which myself and Michael did, as well as remove the trash cans off of the beach, which is, you know, we were expecting, as Jim said, a really big high tide. So that was a threat to any kind of debris and things that were left on the island. So myself, with the help of Beach Patrol, got all that removed from the beach. Also talked to the other beach stakeholders, the Island Beach Service and the resort and the beach club that got all of their equipment off the beach that normally is staged on there as well. So we had everything real tight and secure before the storm came by the end of day on Thursday. After the storm passed us on Friday, we had some people come out here, to include myself, just to do a quick monitor of anything that might have happened. I went straight out to the beach, which of course I had to travel the Parkway and Beachwalker Drive to get there. Everything looked really good. Again, like Jim said, we are very fortunate to not have gotten the impacts that we were projected to get Thursday afternoon. But everything was in really good shape, albeit some minor debris on the ground. I think maybe only a couple of trees might have fallen over, but everything was in good shape. So Monday we came back and began to kind of reestablish everything here at Town Hall, and did another further assessment Saturday morning. Myself and Bruce and his team came out here and we did, I'll let Bruce get into that a little bit more, but we covered the island and covered the beach again to make sure that everything was good. And again, fortunately that we didn't have too much to do after that.
And one thing that you did as well is you put on notice our debris removal companies, but we didn't have to use them in our T's.
That's correct. This whole time I was in touch with the big contracts that we have to come in and help clean up after we have a significant event. So they were ready to get down here and get to work, but I was able to let them know Friday afternoon that we were not going to need their services. So we were able to use our landscape contractor to get everything cleaned up Saturday morning.
And one other thing about the yard debris, I know that was a question from the community.
Right. So since we didn't see a really significant event, the yard debris, we're giving everybody this week to kind of get everything squared away. And Carolina Waste knows that the regular yard debris, which they will be cleaning up that day, will be more than normal, but it's not, we don't have piles of cut trees, you know, in people's yards. So the yard debris is going to be regularly scheduled on Thursday, so everybody should have everything out by then for them to come and make the pass on the island.
Thank you. All right, as a lot of the others alluded to, initially, the early track of the storm was showing it coming up North Edisto River. The fortunate thing there was that the storm actually turned and started following a northeasterly direction, which obviously took it further up the coast, and we all know it ended up at Pawleys Island, or just south of Pawleys. As far as what we do, monitor the storm as it was approaching. The damage assessment team was put on alert to stand by. We did not know exactly when we would be activated. It all depends on what the storm is doing and how fast it goes by. So initially what we did is showed up, did our damage assessment where we covered the entire island, which is commonly referred to as a windshield inspection, looking for any damage, down trees, road blockage, that type of thing. Obviously we had a few down trees, not many to talk about, a lot of light debris on the roadways. So all in all, we fared really well.
And it was a good process as far as what we commonly refer to as a dry run for us, and to make sure all our systems are working. We found a couple glitches, which was good, so we can identify those and correct them. But all in all, pretty simple process, and like you said, our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks that were severely damaged.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Afternoon.
Hi,
Hi, Tony.
Tony.
So we were, depending on how you feel about it, we were either lucky or what I would call blessed that this storm went north of us. I actually lived north of us by about 43 miles, so I was a little concerned, but it went even further north. We had prepared for the storm. I must tell you, being in 32 years in public safety, it was textbook what was done by the town, the county, and all the entities. You couldn't have asked for a better representation and better preparedness. Again, we were lucky that it didn't hit us, but at the same time, that we had prepared for all the tides that we could. We prepared for all the flooding that we could. And when I say that, the rainfall, because we had dropped our ponds significantly, for any of y'all that had seen that, we had dropped them throughout the week. We started off in the early week doing the major basins, and then we moved on into the smaller ones and pretty much took them down as far as we should take them down, with 2 complete full tide cycles and an additional one of the major basins. We could have handled much more rain, glad we didn't get it, than what was there, since the ponds handle the rain. However, if that storm surge would have come over, and this is the part that a lot of our members and citizens don't understand, that once the storm surge inundates us, the ponds do nothing except for become a collection point for that coming over and hitting those ponds. But we were prepared for that. The rainfall, I think we probably could have easily handled 7, maybe 8 inches, depending on the time frame. So we thought that a good job was done by all. Cleanup wise, we're very fortunate. Within the first day, the vast majority of 50, 60, 70% was cleaned up. And then by now, today, we're about 90%. And that includes all of our trails. By Thursday, we'll be 100% cleaned up, although Doug asked me not to say that from Land and Lakes. We're going to self-clean up the piles that are Kikas, and we're going to chip and shred them and dispose of them ourselves, so we don't have any outside contract bills for those. Alex, you'll be happy to know that. So we're basically just going to do it ourselves. Lastly is we had positioned, you probably saw it, pumps in different places, knowing that we had certain areas that were more prone to flooding, and knowing that we also had leisure trails that have been prone to flooding. We had 7 pumps out there ready to begin pumping things if we needed to during this storm. And the only ones that we ended up using were the ones for the leisure trail, and I think we had all those all cleaned up water-wise for the most part Saturday. So we did very well, I think, and it was because of the partnership in here and everybody's preparedness.
Tony, thank you. It was a good partnership all the way around, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank all you guys. Thank all you guys. One item, I don't want to, we don't discuss it, but if you can make it a point, Jim. One of the discussions I had with the mayor of Seabrook and Stephanie that afternoon was what constituted a state of emergency. And we were going back and forth. But Jim, your comments about tides and directions and all of that stuff and when roads, that would be helpful to me. Hopefully it won't happen for, this was the dry one that's gonna happen for another couple of years. But that would be helpful for, the mayor to call that, or to Stephanie to call that. I really wasn't quite sure. We didn't, and I told Mayor Gregg that we weren't going to, but I was a little bit unsure about that, what constituted when we're in we call it a state of emergency, so, anyway. Okay, that's all. Thank you, guys, that's all. Stephanie,
it.
anything to add?
No, nothing
Okay,
to add
thanks, Tony.
to that.
Citizen comments. Proclamation. This is recognizing October 2022 for the Community Planning Month.
Yes, it would be, John, would you like him to discuss Mr. Taylor? John Taylor, he's right over here.
Of course. Oh. I'm looking all around, John, seriously.
Did you want me to read the full proclamation, or?
Sure.
So, the National Organization for Planning, American Planning Association, every October recognizes this month as National Planning Month, Community Planning Month, and in my official 4 years at the town now, we haven't formally done that, and so I thought this was an appropriate time to recognize it based on us going into our comprehensive plan this month, and so the proclamation states, whereas for the town of Kiowa Island, whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, whereas the community planning and plans help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people live, work, and play, and whereas Kiowa Island is an esteemed community as a result of quality planning decisions over time, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. Whereas the month of October is designated National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to the quality of life of how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and sustainable. Whereas the celebration of National Community Month, National Community Planning Month gives Kiowa the opportunity to publicly recognize its participation and the dedication of the members of the Planning Commission, citizen planners, and those who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the town of Kiowa Island. We recognize the many valuable contributions made by professionals and volunteers of the town of Kiowa and extend our heartfelt thanks for those continued commitment to the public service of these professionals.
Thank you. Now, Mayor, you can read the last now, therefore. You can read it now, therefore.
Now therefore, I, John Labriola, Mayor of the town of Kiowa Island, do hereby proclaim this month as October 22 as Community Planning Month. Well done. Well said, well
Yeah.
deserved.
Thank you.
You don't need a motion, do we?
No.
Okay. We have two consent items that we just got done talking about a few minutes ago. The state ATEX funding amounts and approval of the Lou Hammond Group. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, let me comment, the numbers that are in the deck, if people have them, changed slightly from the recommendation, Mr. Mayor, from the Ways and Means Committee. So, Ways and Means is recommending to the town that the request from the Kiowa Island Golf Resort be at $150,000, up from the committee's recommendation of $141,600. That the item number 7, the history of Kiowa Island, be 0 simply because, and we want to support this effort, but this particular avenue using state aid tax funds for it, it appears to be inappropriate, so that should be 0. But the Shorebirds Festival, actually, the request was $20,500. That is what the committee voted on, so the error is the $10,667. So we're recommending 30 for item 4, 30,000 for item 5, 150,000 for item 6, 0 for item 7, and 20,500 for item 8. Sorry for all those changes. That is our recommendation to council.
And that's the motion and, okay.
That's the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance 2022-06.
Wait,
We gotta do the approval of the
you didn't do B.
Oh, what was the consent? I thought.
Just need a motion in a second.
Could I have a motion for the approval of the Lou Hammond contract?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 2022-06. Who's gonna speak? John?
So we do have a recommended zoning ordinance amendment, text amendment, that is for you for first reading and a public hearing today. I'll review just sort of the nexus of how we got here. The town has seen an increase in the number of generators on the island, which has resulted in a number of additional variance requests based on the location and siting of these generators. For an established home or existing home on Kiowa, most of the building footprint goes up to the setbacks to where there's very limited room, particularly on the side and the rear. And so as a result, the BZA has been experiencing a number of sort of minimal requests for variance for generator installations. And so this particular request came as a staff recommendation to amend our text to allow some administrative relief based on a few conditions that would be able to be met. And so this was heard by the Planning Commission in September. Originally on August, no decision was made at that meeting, but in the meeting in September was recommended for approval unanimously by the Planning Commission. And so here are a few examples of what kind of opened up with requests heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals. These are minimal requests, as you can see, 63 square feet, 15 square feet, 7 square feet, and these are all in the same month of July of this year. As you can see, from 2019 to 2020, all the way to 2021, the number of generator stand has increased on the island. And so it's just something that is, as a public safety, life safety, a lot more residents and property owners are requiring this or desiring this for their homes. Here's an example of where an approved variance was granted for a generator stand. It's just outside the setback. This is a 20-foot setback here. It's just outside of the setback. And so by ordinance, this needed a variance approval. Instead, this particular text amendment would allow this particular request to be administratively approved by staff instead of going for the variance. So here's just another example of that. Another at the rear, very minimal encroachments into the setback. As far as there were some conversations during our review with the Planning Commission of what generators and the requirements and whatnot. All the requirements of the Architectural Review Board will still need to be met. A lot of the generators that are on island are required to have be encapsulated to help with the sound that is emitted from those. And so this is just sort of, I know our council went through a noise ordinance amendment just recently. Just kind of gives you a capture of how this fits in. And I'll comment to that towards the end of this. But just regarding what are those conditions, the generator must be reasonably accommodated. This would only apply to new construction, and we're only talking about a 5-foot encroachment. So if a generator stand encroaches more than 5 foot, they would still need to have to go before the BZA for a variance. And additionally, as a condition, it must be adequately screened with vegetation away from adjacent property owners, and they'll still need to be able to obtain the required permits for installation. Staff has outlined that these meet the approval criteria, and so if there are any questions from council, I can entertain those.
Any questions of John?
Everybody? No.
Yeah. Okay, could I have a motion to approve?
You gotta
You need to
open
go
it
to a
up.
public hearing first. Open up for a public hearing for those who want to speak in favor, for, or against.
Anybody?
So you just want to officially open it up?
It's official.
Yeah. Have a motion.
A
Call for
motion to go into
motion.
public hearing? I move that we go to public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's official. Hearing none. Do
Did you have yes.
we have a motion to come out of public hearing?
Yes.
Could I have a motion to come out of public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're out.
No.
I don't
Motion
have
to
to.
approve?
I move that we approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I don't have one, I better go.
Jeez. 2022-07.
So, as a result of this particular ordinance, one of the comments made of us amending the language to allow generator installations administratively based on some conditions, the noise ordinance that was passed in 2020, I think, needed to be amended, or consideration for amendment to incorporate generators specifically. What staff has recommended, Planning Commission asked that staff take a look at that, and so I've taken a look and made the recommendation that we administer or at least treat generators the same way as the HVAC stands in that same ordinance, as being exempt from the noise ordinance, and so it's been for you today for consideration.
So it's really just item F.
And this is just the first reading, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So I move that we accept this change to the noise ordinance
Second.
and then discussion.
Any discussion?
So just a kind of a point for clarification. So we added "and generators" to item F to include it kind of in the same line with properly installed and operating HVAC systems and generators. What we didn't do is define what type of generators that covers. So, because this is an exception condition, so they're not subjected to the decibel limits if it's properly installed and operating. So if you have one that's I'll call it a whole house generator, because I'm not sure what the official name is, versus a guy that bought one from Home Depot and has sitting in his driveway, they're both generators. One of them, the whole house generator, generally is conforming from a noise standpoint. The one that's sitting in the driveway may or may not. It may run like a lawnmower. And I guess the question is, do we need to differentiate the exception condition to be only these permanently installed generators versus the portable generator types?
Temporary, yeah. Because somebody might bring in a temporary generator.
And most of them are quiet.
Right,
Most of them
and
are.
operate it during a storm cycle where they lose power for a week.
And they might have it sitting in their driveway or on their rear
Right.
deck or something,
And it's
hopefully
gonna make
outside of their
noise.
house. But so I guess the question is, do we need to differentiate? Or because we're making an exception condition for generators, is it all generators? Because we're not defining the decimal allowable, we're saying it's an exception condition.
The other thing too is, because it's first reading, you can ask staff to look at it, and then we can come back at second reading if we have any suggestions.
So that's, I think that's a
Because you may
good
not
plan, I think
be
that's a
able-
good plan, because we're not gonna decide
Right,
that
you're
here
not gonna
today.
We don't know.
Yeah, so you
I-
can have
I would
staff
agree.
look at it and work with whomever he likes, and then for second reading, we may come back with additional recommendation.
Yeah, because a temporary generator is gonna be a whole different ball of wax.
And if we decide that it's okay like this, then
Yeah.
we'll
Then we
vote on
won't
it
have
that way.
any
but-
changes, we'll come back with the same.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I mean, in that same vein, no one's gonna pull a generator out of their garage, even if it is noisy, just for the weekend. I mean, there's a real purpose if they, so, see what conditions would be. All right,
And I think you just need to call for the vote, because you
So,
have first
yeah.
and second in discussion.
Yep.
should we,
Call
So-
for the vote,
all in favor?
aye.
Okay.
and we'll look at that.
Resolution 2022-03. Is that you, Bruce?
Mr. Bruce?
All right, good afternoon, council. Code adoption. Every 3 years, the code has a new code cycle. This cycle will actually become effective January 1st, 2023. And just resolution is just formally adopting what we commonly refer to as the series of I-codes, which are all the codes listed in the agenda. The only difference being they're the 2021 international codes is what's going to become effective. The 2020 National Electric Code will become effective in January, as well as the state is staying with the adoption of the 2009 Energy Code, which would be the only differences in years. The NFPA regulates the National Electric Code, and that or not adoption period, but that cycle runs a year behind the International Code Council series of codes. So that is just up for the formal adoption of these codes to make them effective on January 1st, 2023.
Okay, any questions of
Any
Bruce?
questions?
I wouldn't know what to ask.
And we have done this routinely, I take it, Bruce?
Yeah, every 3 years, basically.
And this is something that most jurisdictions have to do. So
Every
it's not
juris-
something
every
unusual.
jurisdiction in the state is
Are-
required to
are
do it.
required.
to do it.
Yeah.
Required, that makes it
Yeah.
less than optional, or more than optional.
That's correct.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
I think I'm back.
And 2022-08.
Yes, along with the Key Island Green Initiative, there are 2 codes that we can adopt as a local jurisdiction. The first one being the International Green Construction Code. The International Green Construction Code basically gives you the minimum requirements for siting. When I say siting, the orientation of a building or a residential home on a property, the design, construction, and operation of high-performance green buildings to reduce the emissions from buildings and building systems while enhancing and promoting occupant health and comfort. The second one I'm proposing is the International Solar Energy Code. Currently, we probably have, I believe, 3, maybe 4 solar systems on the island on residential homes. This provision just gives us a little more in-depth guidance for design, construction, and installation of those systems in correlation with the International Building Code. And I am proposing to adopt these new codes, this code cycle, if agreed upon. Any questions?
This language, Bruce, is the language from the International Green Construction Code and the International Solar Energy Provisions Code
Yes, sir.
verbatim?
I wouldn't say it's verbatim. It's pretty much copied from the other codes we adopted is just the adoption language. These codes do not require anybody to, it's not mandated to design by these requirements. What it simply is a governing code for that if there is a design that comes forward that is implementing any of these systems in their homes, it gives us the regulations and design requirements for those systems. So we have something as a staff to lean back on and saying, does it meet this requirement? And there again, these are all minimal requirements. Does it meet the requirement or does it not meet the requirement? So basically, during the plan review process, we utilize it to make sure that the design is code compliant as all this
So
is.
you don't have to do it, but if you do,
If you
this
do.
is what you have to follow.
Yeah, it's not a mandated code. It doesn't say, hey, you will have to do this by January 1st, 2023. It simply is a method of making sure it's code compliant if the designer decides to go down this path.
Have we had any? Have we had anybody?
We did have a home some years ago that was implementing a garden up on the rooftop, a full rooftop garden. That home did not get built. The owner decided not to build, but that's been really the only one at this point. This is just basically kind of being proactive towards the future. Some of these homes, you know, as we all know, are quite large and could have the ability to design something like that down the road. More so, the solar provisions is more as what we're seeing currently.
Okay. Could I have a motion to,
So I move that we adopt this.
okay, Dan,
Second.
all in favor? Okay. DeRuda, employee health insurance discussion?
Yes, one of the perks that the town offers to its full-time employees is medical or health insurance. And we are with the state agency, PIBA, that is a self-funded insurance and has pretty competitive rates. I attached the 2022 rates for your reference. And as you'll see, there is a portion that is paid by the employee and portion that is paid by the employer. The rates, or this year, for example, in 2023, the rates are going up 18%, but this is just the employer portion. Last year, only when the employer portion went up about 1%. So they're making up right now with this 18%, they're making up for COVID, where for 2 years there was no increases. Normally they raise employer portion about 5% a year. So in the past, the town provided subsidy, the amount that was equal what single coverage cost. And in result of that, the people that are on single coverage didn't pay anything. The health insurance was offered at no cost to them. And the same amount, the fixed amount, was applied to other coverages, as they offer a single and for dependents or family or spouses. There's different types of coverages. So in 2020, 2019 for 2020 rates, the town council decided to eliminate the subsidy, the pretty much zero cost to the employee, and they implemented the structure that the employee should be paying 20% of the total cost, and the town will pay 80%. And that same structure was applied towards different coverages. With those recent increases in the employer portion, the total amount also increased 90%. So in the result, for next year, the single would pay more than the PIBA rate is recommended. So the staff is asking for you to either change the 2080. If we do, for example, 17% for employee and 83% for town, then the single coverage would cost the same as PIBA's rates.
So PIBA requires us not to charge more than
those
their
rates.
limit. So this isn't optional. We have to
Yes.
change the single no matter what we do.
Yes,
Before, where 80/20, we were in compliance.
that's correct.
Now we'd have to go to 17 for singles only to be in compliance.
Yes. So with 2080 before that raise, the town still pay a little more than the PIBA's recommendation or the PIBA's rates. Now with the raise of the total premium, they will end up, the people that are on single coverage, which is about 15 people, will pay more than PIBA, but they cannot pay more than PIBA's rate. So we need to change that.
This is the 2023.
Right.
What are these totals for the single for 2022?
So for a single, the PIBA's rates, or what are we paying, or what the
Just
town, the
what's-
2080?
What are those three numbers across the bottom for 2022? instead of 130.22, 476.58, 606.80, what are the numbers for 2022?
So employee was 130. Employee did not change, but employer was 18% less.
But
The employee portion did not change for many years. So employee was 130.22 for a single, 334 for a employee spouse. It was the same numbers last year or prior year. Just employer changed.
But I'm confused, Dorita. Does PIBA care?
If they care,
Does PIBA's giving you a rate that compares to the 606.80? That's where they gave you an increase. How the
No,
municipality,
no, they increased only. They didn't increase the total. They increased employer portion, the town's portion.
So what
So
they don't
employee-
care is who pays the employee portion, whether the town subsidizes.
That's
or the employee.
correct.
That's, PIBA doesn't care where that comes from. They're just, if last year that employer portion was 390, and this year it's gonna be 476, they want that money,
Yes,
and then the employee portion, to
should
take
be
it to
more.
606, is either paid by the town through a subsidy or paid by the employee.
Yes,
And last year they paid 130.22, so they're actually paying.
so no, they didn't pay 130.22 because
so
they
that's what I
paid.
asked. What did they pay?
Oh, what they paid? Well, I thought so. They paid 121.36, which was 20% of the total cost. So they pay a little less. So the town still subsidized like about $9 last year on a single, and this is monthly.
so unlike most arrangements that most of us have had, I guess I didn't understand this. PIBA dictates what the employee and the employer, the municipality, will pay in addition, and plus the total?
That's correct. However, the town before subsidized or add a little bit to the employee. So employee end up paying a little less what PIBA is requiring or dictating.
I understand that. I didn't realize. So that's interesting.
So this is for a discussion, and we, if there is any scenarios or any,
And they established the minimums. They established,
Yes.
they established the minimums that the employee
not
must
the
pay.
minimum, it's more of a maximum. It's a maximum.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They're establishing you can't
Yes.
charge
But
an employee any
that's
more
correct.
than that.
So how we pay them is every
Yeah.
paycheck we deduct from employees, and we remit monthly a total amount. They don't care, like how is it paid? They don't really care, but we cannot charge employees more than what they dictating, and this is affecting single coverage.
Okay.
So you
Or
want
a
us
majority of our
I need
employees.
to understand some better numbers than this to make.
Yeah.
she's
Well, I
giving
think
us
she's
time.
asking.
Okay, so, well,
Yeah.
this is just for a discussion. We would like for this to be approved, or with however you want to, however direction you want us to go in November meeting, because those are rates that are effective in January 1st. So what else can I provide you to, or what scenarios I can provide you to make the decision?
No, I think you guys ought to take a look at it, but it seems like that inclusion of PIBA relative to this relationship between the employer and the employees is a different one. So I think the pay structure, you got to take a look at that. It's going to be changing. It must
So-
change every year, obviously.
That's correct. So the town was generous to subsidizing or adding a little more, so employees did not have to pay the amount that is dictated by PIBA. But now the single people would actually pay more if we continue with the 2080 structure.
Understand.
So what we need to do is individually come to you, figure it out in our own heads, and be ready with a
That's good too,
recommendation
yeah.
next time.
No, or give me suggestion, how would you like, so I can run those scenarios or those numbers for you to make this change.
And
wanna
if it's,
try to be fair.
and if it's okay, I know in the past what we've done, Mayor, is that essentially you may assign
one council person to work with Dorota and myself to put together a scenario that we can then come and present.
Sure.
If you want to do that, so not all three of you are coming,
At
whichever one.
At different times?
Yeah, with different suggestions. So if
That
you
might
want,
save time.
if either one of you
I'll do
really,
it.
you'll do it? Okay, great.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. How is this discussed in your municipal world when you meet with your fellow town administrators? I mean, every municipality must deal with this, don't
Well, they do, but it's just dealt differently in terms of insurance. And some municipalities are self-insured. They don't even go through PEPA.
Oh,
So, and then others that do go through PEPA, it's just essentially up to that jurisdiction in terms of how they want and how much they charge the employee. So that's not really a big discussion in the world, with the exception of those that are self-insured that go through private. They just kind of, every so often, they shop around.
is that a function like the town? Is Charleston self-insured, or, I mean, the bigger cities, are they?
I'm guessing a lot of the bigger cities are, I believe Mount Pleasant is, Hilton Head. Some of the smaller ones go through PEPA just because it's easier, but
Easier.
some of the larger ones, they become self-insured up to,
Yeah,
essentially up
that's
to $1 million, and then private just because of their
Okay. Well, Mr. Moffett comes
load
highly,
factors and all that, so.
Mr. Moffett comes highly recommended.
Okay, great. We love
All
working
right,
with
thank
ya.
you.
Town administrators report.
Bruce has one thing that he just needs to inform you all of, and he gave me copies, and this is just really so that it's part of the record, and it's about the hazard mitigation plan update. And so he just has to let you all know, so that's part, again, of the record.
All right. On an annual basis, the Hazard Mitigation Committee meets, or not, we meet all year, but on an annual basis, we make recommendations to update the Hazard Mitigation Manual. The documents you received are just a summary of those updates. The actual entire Hazard Mitigation Manual can be viewed online, and there is a link on that page if you decide you want to review the entire manual. There again, it is just a process to go through. We have to formally notify council of the updates and all jurisdictions that make up the regional hazard mitigation plan. Obviously, Kiowa is one of those folks. It is also a requirement by FEMA under our community rating system requirements.
So you're basically telling us that almost everything was updated in this period of time?
Quite a few things were updated, yes, sir.
Anything material? I mean, were any changes material, you know, that the council needs to be aware of, or they?
They were more, this year we leaned a lot towards resiliency. And picking areas in Charleston County that susceptible to flooding and how to kind of work towards a mitigation plan for those areas. So we're really picking areas and identifying them and going in and seeing what can be done, whether it's improving the stormwater drainage system. We've looked at rain gardens. We've looked at quite a few different things. But that was more the focus of this past year.
That's good.
Okay.
I was in conversation, Mr. Mayor, with a resident of Merle's Inlet, they were on the wrong side of the storm. And the people I was speaking to are 1.25 miles inland, and their home was flooded. So this stuff if you're on the wrong side of a storm, you're in trouble. We got lucky,
We got very
Really?
lucky.
so this helps.
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Bruce. We just have one other update that Brian would like to give, please, from Administrator's Report.
Good afternoon. Just
Unless
a
you're
quick,
gonna tell us that Kessel Court is done.
Well, he's going to give an update on that.
well, it depends on yes, the construction is done. The only thing we're waiting on right now are the new compactor units. So a little bit about that. I just got an email as this meeting was going on about the update on the new units that we have coming. Of course, the original date that we were supposed to get them was going to be the middle of September. They just said that they're now looking closer to December. So what we're going to do in the meantime is we have the ability to reinstall the old units that were there so that we can at least have a functioning unit for the residents to use, and we'll have that there until we get the new compactor units closer to December. So, and being that email just came through, I'm going to work with Carolina Waste on the timeline that we can get those up, but that's where we are right now. But again, all the construction's done. Everything is in good shape. It's just going to be bringing in some units for the interim until we get the new ones.
Where are they physically located? Did the company take them away someplace?
We actually told them to hold on to them in case we did need to do a reinstall
Okay.
of the old equipment. So in the email that she said that they've got them. So just determining, do we want to bring all of them back? Maybe some of it in a, we'll figure all that out. But we should have something there for people to throw their refuse away
As quickly as possible.
as quickly as
Sooner
possible.
than later.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And we get the new units from the Waste Management Company,
Yes.
correct?
Supply chain.
Amen. Council members, committee updates? John?
Can I mention two things, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
One on the roads situation, since I've been sort of leading the charge along with John Taylor on roads. We fully expected that we would hear from the county by the end of September on which alternative to segment C they were going to go with. We have not heard. I made a request to the county this morning that they give us whatever update they can. As all of you, I think, know, the town proposed that they make improvements on Bohicket Road, this is for segment C, from Edenvale north through Brownswood, including a major redo of the intersection of Main, Bohicket, and Maybank Highway. We think that's critical, but we also said we think there ought to be improvements made to plow ground, which many people now are already beginning to use to get over and avoid Maybank to get up to the bridge, basically at River and Maybank Highway. And the third piece we recommended to the county they consider is improving River, starting at plow ground and going north because of all the new homes that are built there and the traffic that will be there if 526 gets extended. Anyway, we haven't heard back, I'm disappointed to say. As soon as we hear something, we will let everybody know, but we're waiting on that. Now, that'll be their recommended solution, and then we get to comment on it. How long that takes, I don't know, but we're working on it. It just, for whatever reason, seems to be taking longer.
And
Yes.
just as a reminder, they are having a meeting here on the 19th.
Oh, we're having a meeting here on it, on the 19th?
Mrs. Honeycutt's gonna be here.
I sent
Do we know what she's
Well,
gonna
no.
comment on?
We can ask her.
Yes, so on October 19th, Ms. Jenny Honeycutt, along with the staff, is going to have Century Town Hall meeting here to give a main road corridor update at 3 p.m.
That's your update. yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Maybe we'll learn something. Last, I want to acknowledge, and all of us do, I think, the Kiowa Conservancy is in the middle of its 25-year celebration, which I think is terrific. They have worked long and hard with the town on preserving many of the things that are so important to the island. The beaches, the marshes, the maritime forest, the wildlife. Each year the town approves in its budget things that are important to the Conservancy. I hope the town continues to do that because they have been an important part of why we're all here. So good for them. If you're helping them celebrate, thank you. If you're not, celebrate with them. They do a good job. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Citizen comments? I'm sorry, yes.
Maura McIlvaine, 146 Blue Heron Pond Road. During the summer, we had a number of traffic studies done inside the main gate, and it hadn't been done for a while, which is fine, but I was wondering whether we had a report yet on what you were measuring and whether we have some data from it.
Thank you, we'll get back to you. Traffic counts, we can get back to you. So public comments, citizen comments, we'll take the information, and then I'll let John provide you with information. We did receive the counts. I don't know, that's not posted on our website.
No.
But we'll share those with you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to just add one thing, if I might, in
Sure.
Staff comments. In recognizing that the town just did a proclamation for National Planning Month, I thought it'd be great if John could just give a quick update on the marsh management plan and the comprehensive plan kickoff.
Sure.
If you can do that. Mr. Taylor, just quickly, since we're recognizing National Planning Month.
On the beginning with the comprehensive plan, that essentially will begin this October. We have an initial kickoff meeting that is a date officially hasn't been confirmed just yet, but that'll be at the end of October. The exciting part about the comprehensive plan, our planning commission has already done a lot of, not even just the planning commission, but we've had a number of things that have been in motion regarding development and planning in the last 3 to 4 years that will tee off the engagement process. Our engagement process will include not only just in-person meeting, but it will include online engagement opportunities for the community. And so those who are not permanently on the island physically every day and being able to attend physically those meetings will still be able to participate. That was something that was highly recommended that we do. And so that engagement process of reaching out to the community will occur very shortly now that October is here. Regarding the marsh management plan, those final recommendations have been come. Those will be sent to our planning commission for review, but we will have one more final presentation of those materials to the town council, hopefully in November, after those sort of comments have been reviewed by 2 of our planning commission members who have led the charge for the whole commission. And so those recommendations are really to think about how we holistically look at the marsh. The initial kickoff meetings, from the initial kickoff meetings to our charrette that we've done, the amount of comments that we've received from those individuals and entities on the island have been, I don't want to say alarming in a bad way, but alarming in a way that gives us opportunity to make some real substantive ground and resiliency and how we look at the marsh. Particularly, there might be some recommendations for amendments coming forward in that. It's not, like I said, these are recommendations, so council be still up to council to make those changes. But I had a meeting with our consultant team last week and to kind of review just some minor changes. And so they've sent that back to me on yesterday. So that, well, like I said, will be reviewed with the planning commission subcommittee, and then we'll have that back hopefully for a presentation maybe in November for council to review. But that's kind of all for those 2 plans.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Traffic being such an important subject, could you put in the calendar maybe next month an update on Kimley Horn, and then as was just mentioned, then the counts?
Just an FYI, the Kimley Horn report has been posted online, so that's online.
It's been on our
That's been
website.
completed.
Oh, it is.
Mhm.
Yes.
The comprehensive traffic study's been on our website.
I know that, but I mean the updated one in terms of the intersection.
We
We-
can discuss that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
We're adjourned.